Hello and welcome to my video. If you're new here, what I like to do is to create videos that I would have found helpful when I first got out looking for treasure like pearls. Now, this is a Pearls Revisited video, and the reason is that the prior Pearls video was one where I did it at the request of a friend, and I was still learning pearls. And I am still learning pearls. But I did learn a lot from the wonderful people who commented on that video. And some of these pearls are about to go away because there's a jeweler that wants to turn them into a birthday gift for someone. So before that happens, I need to make another how to identify pearls video with the new examples that I have without having to put them in your mouth, because I still don't really want to put pearls in my mouth. However, it was explained to me and I understand now how that test works. So I'm going to go ahead and lay all these out, and we're just going to go through the different categories and explain what's what. And I will be back in a moment. All right, they are all laid out now. One of the things before we proceed, I should mention is that I am a treasure hunter. I'm not a pearl expert. I'm not a pearl dealer. I don't resell jewelry. So I'm always out just looking for neat things. And these pearls I found using these techniques. So this isn't necessarily something that you could use to be a pearl dealer, but when you're out and about and you're looking at things, these are all techniques that I use to find pearls. And everything you're looking at, I didn't spend, more than 10 bucks for. I pretty much, spend between $0.25 and $1 for any particular necklace. Maybe $2 if I liked it. But for the most part, that is what this video is about. It's about very quickly and very easily dismissing things that are not going to be pearls, and grabbing things that there's a strong likelihood that they're going to be pearls or going to be real pearls. Now, there's a lot of different kinds of pearls, and I learned quite a bit from the comments. For example, we're looking at here, we have up here, we have seed pearls, and these are real pearls. As I understand it, they're usually or are always freshwater. And those come in some different varieties. They're also sometimes called rice pearls. There are, of course, our classic, what you would think of as and what I call and other people call natural pearls, in that they're a pearl that was not cultured. It actually grew naturally within the oyster around some kind of irritant like a little grain of sand. And we'll talk about those in a moment. Then there's the cultured pearls. And I'm not certain that I actually have good examples of cultured pearls. The big difference between the natural and the cultured is that the cultured ones will take a perfectly spherical object and put it into the oyster, and then the oyster will deposit nacre on the outside of it. So it will be, for all intents and purposes, a real pearl, especially if it's been in that oyster for a long time, but it will be perfectly round. So when you're looking at these and you're saying, okay, is this like an old set of natural pearls, or is this a set of cultured pearls? If we have everything, say, like we pick this one up here, and you can see all of these are perfectly spherical. So you'd look at that and go, okay, well, do we have real pearls? Because this would be a crazy expensive necklace if these were real old natural pearls, all selected because they're perfectly spherical. And then we can do a few checks. So we can see what is the material that the catch is made out of. And in this case, it's made out of sterling, which is a good sign. I mean, sterling is definitely better than pot metal if it were just made out of something that wasn't like that. Wasn't silver or gold. We could probably fairly easily dismiss it. And then the next question we have is, do they feel and sound like plastic, or do they feel and sound dense? Are they kind of cold to the touch? If we compare, I have some plastic ones here, and you can hear a difference in sound already between these. The plastic ones are warm to the touch, as opposed to these ones, which are cold to the touch, and they definitely don't sound as good. So we've got two things. We've got a nice catch. We've got a nice sound, nice sound feel. Those are two things that make us go, let's look closer. Now, being completely uniform like this, I might suspect that they're glass. And you can check that a couple different ways. One of the first ways is to do what's commonly known as the tooth test. Rub it on your tooth. But you don't have to rub it on the tooth. You can just rub it up against the other pearls. And what you're looking for is, does it feel smooth? It feels real smooth when I do that. If I take what I know is actually real pearls, here, these are real pearls, and I do that same kind of rub, it feels a little bit gritty, just like a little bit. It's definitely, you don't want to hurt your pearls, but you can do it real lightly, and it has a very different feel. It has this gritty feel, and that's what, when people say to rub it on your tooth, you're looking for that gritty feel versus a smooth feel. And I have to say, that's what I was told, and after going through all of these pearls, I think that's entirely correct. And I think it's actually a very good test once you get the feel for it. Once you've had a bunch of these out in front of you, you can definitely feel that little bit of grittiness versus the smoothness. So in this case, we've got that smoothness. Now, the other thing that you can look for with pearls is you want to look around the hole. And in this case, you can see there that we have kind of like a little chipping. And what you're looking for is you're looking for the outer coating to be flaking off, exposing glass underneath. In this case, I don't know if that's what we're looking at. I think we have some other ones here that can show that fairly well. But this particular set doesn't look exactly right, and isn't, oh, no, here we go, we're good. See this right here? There's glass, and then you can see the layers of nacre over the top, or the layers of the pearlescent substance, whatever they did to make these. So I don't know if these were cultured pearls and you've got two layers. I don't think so. I think these were probably just made as glass and then covered with a pearl coating. And you can see it right there. If you look at a set of real pearls, these ones are a little bit bigger. You can compare. We don't have any of that kind of chipping going on there. Now, I don't know that these are natural pearls or what's going on with this particular set, but what I can say is that with that incredibly uniform, you know, we saw that these ones were very uniform. If we look at this set, we have not the greatest catch, honestly. I think it's still silver, but I think this has probably been restrung by someone at some point. And if we look, you see how all of these pearls are roughly the same size, but they're definitely not round. Some of them may be. They're not all quite the same color. They're not all the same shape. But if we rub them together, as we saw previously, we get that little grittiness. Now, if they were cultured pearls, I would expect them to be perfectly round, because you would have stuffed a perfectly spherical object inside the oyster and pulled out a perfect looking pearl. In these cases, they aren't. So I think our likelihood here is that we're looking at natural pearls, in that these were probably pulled out of the oyster and they're formed around like a little grain of sand or some other irritant. But they're a little bit lower quality. And that's where we can look at some of these other pieces to see what a little bit higher quality, probably natural pearls are, because they get a little bit more subtle. Now these two right here are, I believe, and then this one down here. And I think we'll start with this one because it's the biggest, and I think it's the easiest to actually see. So the first thing we want to check with something like this is look at the clasp, look at the quality of the clasp. We have nice high quality. If we open it up here, there we go. We can check it to see, yeah, that's what this one is. If we zoom in there, we have, I believe, yep, 14 karat. That's upside down, but you get the point. So that's a 14 karat clasp. Now, why would you put a 14 karat clasp on some cheap beads? You probably wouldn't. So if we look closer, and I usually like to look at that first when I see one of these, because it's the first clue. If we look closer, we have a few things that are nice. One is the knots between. Now, the knots between just mean that somebody, when they strung it, there was two things going on. Either they didn't want to, like, say this broke off and you lost a pearl, that would be annoying. But if there weren't knots between, you could lose the whole strand and they could all go everywhere. And that's why the knotting exists. And a lot of pearls were restrung with knots between them for that purpose. So that's a good sign, especially when we're already looking at a good clasp and we're seeing something that we feel, you know, we've checked here and we go, okay, it's got that right feel. I'm not seeing anything flaking off on the outside. And then we're looking at these and you see they're not all quite exactly the same color. You know, we definitely have different colors in some cases, a little bit different shades, and they're not all perfectly round. They're all roughly the same size or pretty close to the same size. But they're not exactly perfect, are they? And my understanding is that would lead me to believe that this is probably old natural pearls, in that they're not cultured. And they're probably fairly old, but potentially restrung. A lot of the old ones were not necessarily strung with the knots, and then they were restrung. Maybe that's when this was added. But that's the thing about some of these old pearls is, you know, they've been in families for a long time, and the strings may wear out. So the other thing about them that I think is worth noting is that there's a lot of color variation. You see all these different colors that you're looking at? And with all of that color variation, the higher quality pearls are going to be ones that are color matched. So if you have like a wild assortment of colors, you know, you have like a little lower quality strand, like this strand that we were looking at. You know, the shapes aren't quite as nice as this one, and the colors are a little bit further off. Now, are any of my pearls absolute top quality pearls? I don't think so. I think there's some nice pearls here, certainly, but I don't think they're absolutely top quality. I don't believe I've ever found a set of absolute top quality natural pearls. All right, that said, there are a few things to be wary of. You know, when you're looking at these things, you might see that you have, like I say, you got sterling. That means this is a nicer necklace, but it's still glass. Again, here we have the same thing. We've got a sterling catch, but if we were to inspect these or just do our little tooth test, we're definitely looking at glass again. So if you're spending a lot of money on them, you want to be very, very careful. And I wouldn't use my video to inform your expensive purchases. I go out and I look for treasure at garage sales and thrift shops, and that's where all of these came from. And being able to spot and grab them and discount the plastic, I think is a valuable skill, because there's a lot of these out there. People forget about them, and they come in, you know, very, very pretty, different colors. Obviously, if you're going to get really into pearls too, you could probably go down a rabbit hole that never ends. That's not me. What I am is about finding the treasure, and what this video is about is being able to go, hey, that's treasure, I want to come home with it. So with that, I'm going to finish out this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hey, please hit that subscribe button, share it around, really helps me out, and leave a comment. If I'm wrong about something, again, which is entirely likely, you know, let me know. I learned a huge amount from the previous video, and I was planning on doing this video at some point in the future, just not Not quite yet, but some of these are going to be going for a birthday gift, so I need to make sure that I have this filmed before they go away, because I tend to learn best when I have examples in front of me. And I don't think I can do a video like this without having a series of different examples in front of me. So with that, I hope you can use the information that you learned from this video to go out and find yourself some treasure.
Like this, I've been Thomas.